Hey everyone, Sakriyasin here, and the topic of this video is let impulse triumph. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically what I mean is just whenever you have an impulse to do something, like a very strong urge or interest towards doing something, I think it's best to do that thing. Like for me, I used to have this I used to have it where I wouldn't let my impulse triumph or prevail, uh, however, to make it sound epic. Um, and for instance, let's say I have to go to sleep and wake up in 5 hours. And I'm thinking, well, I'm only going to get 5 hours of sleep, so I really need sleep. This is important. And maybe after like 2 hours, I'll wake up and I'll still be tired, but I have like this idea in my head and I really want to draw and get it down. But then I'll think like, well, I have to be up in 3 hours. I need the sleep, and I'll just take the sleep. Well, what would happen is, yeah, I'd get the sleep, but I would miss out on an opportunity to use that energy that I had to actually draw. And since I don't know how many years it's been, but it's been a few years since I made a conscious decision to pretty much let art always win if it's a decision between art and something else. Um, I mean, you can't always do that. For instance, sometimes you might want to draw instead of, I don't know, studying for a test or something. I wouldn't say that's the same thing, but more like if you really feel like you have a moment where you want to express yourself, you have something inside you that you need to get out, or else you're very interested in something. I think it's a good idea to pursue that. And where I see this also coming up is with students who will ask me things like, oh, I know I should study the fundamentals, but I really want to do, and then they'll tell me maybe finished work, maybe, I don't know, they want to draw this subject matter or that subject matter. Like that's where their passion is. That's what's really interesting them right now. But instead they're asking me like, yeah, but I guess I know I should do fundamentals, right? And my answer is pretty much always you can try and find a way to do both. When students are asking me if they should do finished work or just practice, and like because I have mentioned it's good to build up your foundations before you just start tackling finished works. And a lot of times when people send me finished works, and this is just works that are created to be put on display, they're polished as best as the artist can. Often the thing that's lacking is just mileage and a lot of experience. But should they not do finished works? I don't think that's the answer either. I think if you want to do finished works, if that's where your impulse is, then you should do that. But I like to make it so you're doing both. Like spend some time doing studies or sketches or whatever it is to build up your foundations, to build up your mileage. Because doing finished works is building up mileage as well. Like whatever you do, you get good at. So if you get good at polishing, or if you do a lot of polishing, you're going to get good at a lot of polishing. But I think the fear is sometimes that if this person does a lot of sketching, they're only going to get good at sketching and they're not going to be able to do finished works. But I think when you work on your foundations, you'll realize that there isn't a whole lot of difference between a sketch and a finished work, except for the time invested. Because if you're really, you got your fundamentals down, it's that, okay, so what are the fundamentals? Maybe something like you want to paint and you understand how to paint a cube and a sphere and a cylinder and a cone. Well, anything more complicated than that is just made up of those geometric shapes in different configurations. So if it's like, well, I don't want to draw a cube, I want to draw a building. It's like, well, a building is a variation on a cube. Well, it depends on what kind of building. Or let's say you've got a cathedral. It's like, well, there are cubes there, maybe there's a dome, which is, just a sphere, half a sphere, or maybe it resolves into like what do you call it, the steeple, and the pointy thing, and that's like a cone, or a different type of pyramid. So in that case, it's just more time. But if you don't know the fundamentals, yeah, you're getting better at polishing, but it's not really good polishing, like you're polishing turds, and I've said this before. But if you do know your foundations, it's not as hard. But anyway, that's sort of going off on a tangent, because my real message for this video is try to allow yourself to follow your interest, to follow, whether if it's your passion, fine, your passion. But sometimes I feel like it's not even a passion, it's more like an urge, just this impulse to do something. And one of the reasons why it's so important is because I feel like there are moments, at least this is the way it is for me, so you can actually let me know in the comments how it is for you. Maybe it's different for you, and I would be interested to know exactly how it is for you. But for me, what happens is when I am acting on impulse like this, I pay a lot more attention. It's like I have a lot more energy to give. And because I'm a pretty low energy person, I think anyway, and I still, suffer from depression and things like that. It's like I don't have a lot of energy available, and I tend to put out works in spurts. Like I'm more of a sprinter than a marathon runner, to have an example. And I like to work intensely and then take a break, and then work intensely and then take a break, rather than just work at a medium level for a long period of time. Yeah, I don't really do so well with that. But so energy is very important to me. How I spend my energy is really, really important. And when I am really interested, it feels like I have bonus energy. Like, oh, if I pursue this, I'm going to be recharging my batteries. Whereas if I don't, sure, maybe it's like the sleep thing. I got more sleep. But if I sleep, yeah, that's going to recharge my batteries. But if I actually do the thing I wanted to do, even if I'm a little bit tired, I feel like there's going to be some creative juices that will have been produced in that moment of inspiration. So yeah, definitely, it's my opinion anyway, to follow that. And right now, for instance, with my work, I'm sort of getting this impulse to break a little bit out of the style that I've worked to create very analytically. And it's not to throw the style away, but it's more like, almost like I feel like I've got what components I needed. Like I needed to get certain elements. I needed mileage, which I got. I needed to understand my proportions, which I got. I needed to understand the way my shapes work and my shape language. And it's like, I've got all these components. So now there's this feeling to not think so much and rather to go about creating. And this is really kind of where I hoped it would end up. And I also got a lot of people cautioning me earlier on, like, maybe you're being too analytical, you're thinking too much about this. But the way I was thinking about it is that I need mileage, and I need to build this up in a very smart way, because I'm not a spring chicken, right? I'm 31 now. But I'm going to be, I'm missing out on stuff that maybe a kid who always was drawing since they were 5 years old, and always had a lot of passion and inspiration. Maybe by the time they're 19, they've already gained enough mileage, and then they just go and do great stuff, and they can't really tell you how they did that. But for me, it was like, I know I don't have enough mileage. I know I don't have enough experience, and I know I haven't trained my imagination, so how do I make up for that as soon as possible? And it's displayed in, like, the answer to that, at least my answer was in my pointy chin series. So that's really kind of like two years-ish of work that shows and it's continuing. And if you want to see it, it's there's a link to it in the description in my Patreon. You can watch new episodes of Pointy Chins. But anyway, it's like, okay, I need to get this, and how do I get this as fast as possible so that then I can be more free and do, I don't know, stuff without feeling hindered by my lack of skill or lack of experience. But yeah, there's also a voice inside that's saying, maybe you shouldn't deviate from this. You worked so hard to create this style as it is. But it's this thing where I've been feeling it for a little while now, where it's like, I feel like I want to do something a bit different. And even if I return to the old thing, it's like, fine, but I feel an interest in something else. And I think, as I said, I'm still going to do both, right? I'm not going to give up one for the other. But even if you temporarily put it on hold, I don't think it's such a bad thing. And sometimes I think it's okay to even be willing to sacrifice maybe a year or more. I mean, the time is really up to you how important it is. But you can sacrifice some time for this interest, just to experiment, because maybe something will come out of it. And if nothing else, you'll have learned something, or at least if you pay attention, you will have learned something. So it's something I also see a lot with people who just feel a little bit guilty to do that, I'm really interested in drawing mechs, but I don't know my perspective, so maybe I shouldn't draw mechs, and instead I should just draw boxes and learn my perspective. It's like, well, drawing boxes is great. It's a great way to improve your perspective. But my suggestion to this person, this imaginary person who wants to draw mechs and nothing else really, is to draw boxes. Sure, get better at your perspective, and then draw boxes with your mechs and turn your boxes into mechs, and also just draw mechs from imagination to keep fueling this this passion, to keep getting the creative energy. Because yeah, if you follow this, you get rewards, and it shows. Like, you're going to produce better work if you're doing stuff you like. Like for me, I really like drawing girls. It's like, well, am I so interested in, or even just crazy proportions, am I so interested in anatomy? Well, I need it. But if I was to just do super realistic anatomy, that would be a bit boring for me. But if I draw the things I want to draw, and then on top of that put the anatomy, and it gets a bit distorted and stuff, but it's still like, that's more fun because I still get to do what I want to do. So for mechs, it's like I would draw mechs, and then I would make sure the perspective is right, or I would study the perspective or something to just incorporate the two things. So yeah, pretty much that's all I want to say. If you feel like you really want to do something, do it. Even if it's maybe not, but I'm not supposed to because I don't know this yet, or I don't know that yet. If you feel like I really want to make a comic, but I don't know if I'm ready. It's like, if you really want to do it, I think that's all that needs to be. That's the answer, right? Like, if you are saying, I really want to do something, then do it. I feel like that's what you should do. That's following your impulse. I really want to make a comic, or I really want to draw sexy girls. It's like, draw sexy girls then, or sexy guys, or sexy, I don't know what. But yeah, do it. Okay, so I hope that helped, and thanks for watching.